What is the disadvantage of using aluminum tube in refrigeration systems? Perfect. Requires special welding technique is the correct choice. Which hose is connected to the suction side of the refrigeration system?
Clear logic. Your choice low side hose is sound and 100% true.
What is the main function of the restriction in the refrigeration cycle? Nice selection. To restrict the flow of liquid refrigerant is the correct and valid answer. What is the purpose of a vibration eliminator in a refrigeration system? Valid point. Absorbs compressor vibrations and minimizes noise transmission is true. In a refrigeration system, the expansion device is connected between the... Well done. Receiver and evaporator is the right choice. What are the two types of control components in a refrigeration system? Correct response. Mechanical and electrical is the most accurate answer. What is the process of removing air from a refrigeration system called? Hot. Bravo! Purging is the answer. What is the main function of the compressor in a refrigeration system? Exactly. To compress the refrigerant makes sense and it is right choice. What is the function of a solid-state relay in a refrigeration system? You chose to control the temperature, and it is correct. What is the function of an expansion device in a refrigeration system? Nice work. You chose to expand refrigerant flowing within a refrigerant line, and it is correct. What is the purpose of the liquid receiver in a refrigeration system? You got it. Your choice to store excess refrigerant is right. What component is described as the heart of the refrigeration system? Smart pick. Compressor is the correct choice. What is the function of metering device in an AC refrigeration cycle? Correct. Dropping pressure is the right answer. What is the role of the expansion device in the refrigeration cycle? Great job. To reduce the pressure of the refrigerant is the accurate answer. The compression device used in a steam jet refrigeration system is a... Sharp thinking. Steam ejector is the right choice. The heat-removing capacity of 1 ton of refrigeration is equal to... Good thinking. 3.5 W is the right answer. What is the function of the check valve in a refrigeration system? You're right. Prevents refrigerant from flowing into the heat. Reclaim coil is the correct answer. Which type of valve is a solenoid valve in a refrigeration system? Well reasoned. Electrically actuated two-position valve is the correct choice. What is the purpose of a solenoid valve in a refrigeration system? Good job. Your answer, to regulate the flow of refrigerant, works well here. A refrigeration plant is divided dash low and high pressure sides. On track. Into is the correct answer. Which component follows the compressor in the refrigeration cycle? Strong choice. Condenser is the right answer. Where is the evaporator usually located in a refrigeration system? Excellent choice. Indoors, inside the room being cooled is the right answer. What is the purpose of the accumulator in a refrigeration system? Nicely done. 2. Prevent liquid from entering the compressor is a solid answer. What is the function of the evaporator in a refrigeration cycle? Great thinking. Absorbs heat from the room is the right choice. What is the effect of air contaminants in a refrigeration system? Smart move. Motor insulation damages is an accurate answer. What is the purpose of a dye test in refrigeration leak testing? Well picked. To detect refrigerant leakage using a fluorescent dye is the correct answer. The basic refrigeration cycle consists of major components. Right choice. 4 is the best answer. What is the purpose of the condenser in the refrigeration cycle? Solid response. To restrict the flow of liquid refrigerant is a valid choice. Process of removing heat from a substance or an enclosed space. Excellent. Refrigeration is a brilliant choice. Which of the following is not a common refrigeration accessory? Right again. Expansion valve is a valid answer.
This part of the refrigeration circuit is responsible for dash.
Smart move. Absorbing moisture is an accurate answer. Where is a liquid receiver located in a refrigeration system? Well picked. Between the condenser and the expansion device is the correct answer. How many major components are there in a refrigeration cycle? On track. 4 is the correct answer. Heat is absorbed by refrigerant during refrigeration cycle in. You're right. Evaporator is the correct answer. What are the 4 basic components of all refrigeration system? You chose evaporator, condenser, compressor, and meter device. And it is correct. What is the effect of an overcharged refrigeration system? Clear logic. Your choice high pressure readings on both suction and discharge is sound and 100% true.
How many BTUs are in 1 ton of refrigeration in 24 hours?
Sharp thinking. 288,000 BTU 24 hours is the right choice. Why is a service valve important in a refrigeration system? Strong choice. Allows convenient access to the refrigerant for troubleshooting is the right answer. Below is the main component of refrigeration system except. Well reasoned. Pump is the correct choice. What should be checked to verify the refrigeration system? Correct response. Proper support and rigidity is the most accurate answer. A reversible Carnot cycle used for refrigeration comprises. Excellent. 2 isentropic and 2 isothermal processes is a brilliant choice. Why is a relief valve necessary in a refrigeration system? Smart pick. Prevents the refrigeration vessel from rupturing under high pressures is the correct choice. Why is a crankcase heater used in a refrigeration system? Great thinking. To maintain a constant temperature in the compressor crankcase is the right choice. What happens if a refrigeration system is undercharged? Right again. Low pressure readings on both suction and discharge is a valid answer. Which component absorbs heat in the refrigeration cycle? Nice selection. Evaporator is the correct and valid answer.
What is the purpose of refrigeration in warmer climates? Right choice. To keep food cold is the best answer. What is the equivalent of 1 ton of refrigeration in kiko? Solid response 3 doves is a valid choice. What is the primary purpose of the refrigeration cycle? Valid point. To transfer heat is true. High temperature refrigeration is that produced by dash? You got it? Your choice air conditioning systems is right. This hose is used to evacuate the refrigeration system. Well done. Vacuum hose is the right choice. In aircraft, air refrigeration cycle is used because of... Nice work. You chose low weight per ton of refrigeration, and it is correct. How do you remove moisture from a refrigeration system? Nicely done. Use a vacuum pump is a solid answer. What enters the compressor in the refrigeration cycle? Correct. Low pressure, low temperature gas is the right answer. The reversed Carnot refrigeration cycle processes are. Exactly. Heat addition, compression, heat rejection, expansion makes sense, and it is right choice. What is the main principle of the refrigeration cycle? Good job. Your answer, changing of state within the refrigerant, works well here. What are the 2 main types of refrigeration systems? Perfect. Vapor compression and absorption systems is the correct choice. Identify this part of the refrigeration circuit. Great job. Liquid line filter dryer is the accurate answer. What is the max capacity for the refrigeration unit? Excellent choice. 2 lubbies is the right answer. Below are the process in refrigeration system except. Bravo, power is the answer. What is the main purpose of a refrigeration system? Good thinking. To remove heat is the right answer. What is the refrigeration cycle primarily used for? Excellent. Air conditioning and refrigeration systems is a brilliant choice. Cop of aircraft refrigeration systems low because. Right again. No phase change of air is a valid answer. In Villefort cycle, refrigeration effect is produced by. Great job. Evaporator is the accurate answer. How does refrigeration help in preserving food? Well reasoned. Slowing down the growth of bacteria and other microorganisms is the correct choice. In a refrigeration system, heat is absorbed by. You're right. The latent heat of vaporization in the evaporator is the correct answer. The subcooling in a refrigeration cycle dash. Smart move. Increases COP is an accurate answer. The compressor in a refrigeration system dash. Nice work. You chose pumps the refrigerant throughout the system, and it is correct. Organize is a John technician of Fridge John. Great thinking. John is a technician of fridge is the right choice. Refrigeration refers to the process of dash. Bravo. Cooling the space is the answer. A ton of refrigeration is equal to dash.
Valid point 288,024 far is true.
It is the blood of refrigeration system.
Excellent choice. Refrigerant is the right answer.
A micron gauge is used to measure dash.
Smart pick. Absolute pressures below 1 mHg is the correct choice.
The term fractionation refers to the
Good thinking. Separation of a refrigerant blend into its component parts is the right answer. What is the role of the compressor? Well picked. Create pressure difference is the correct answer.
how much heat can the unit remove?
Solid response. 2.3 refrigeration tons is a valid choice.
The process of food preservation.
You chose refrigeration, and it is correct.
To pull a vacuum means to dash.
Nicely done. Lower the pressure in a refrigeration system below atmospheric is a solid answer.
1 ton of refrigeration is
Sharp thinking. 12,002 per hour is the right choice.
non-condensable gases dash.
Correct. Are undesirable in a refrigeration system is the right answer.
What is refrigeration?
Nice selection. Cooling is the correct and valid answer.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format? Well done. Contact Narayan Changda is the right choice.